Hello, my name is Irene Casanova Mata, and I'm a primary education English teacher in Castilla-La Mancha. As it can be seen on the slide, the presentation is titled Effectiveness of Gamification in Primary Education, Analysis of Linguistic and Emotional Competences, Motivation and Attentional Focusing. This presentation has been elaborated for INTED Congress. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's start. As it can be seen, a brief introduction about the state of the art within the subject, as well as the objectives and the methodology, will be explained. Then results, discussion and conclusions will be clarified to end up with the bibliography used in the presentation. However, let us start from the beginning, shall we? For a long time now, transmission instructional models have long been the most common teaching and learning process used in schools. However, this type of models carry some problems like the lack of cooperation among students and the low motivation and interest that some students have towards the learning of the second language. Therefore, the educative context should aim towards the development of student-centered strategies so that students can acquire an effective learning. An example of this is gamification, which refers to the use of game mechanisms in non-learning contexts so that students can be provided with different benefits, like, for example, a high attentional focusing, motivation, and positive feelings towards the learning process. In fact, quoting Acevedo, the use of gamification in education is a gradual, developed tendency that enables students to enjoy, that is, to feel content while acquiring new contents, new knowledge, as well as evaluating, assessing their learning process, since mistakes are considered as a part of learning, providing them with constant feedback and positive reinforcement, as badges, score points, and different game mechanisms are used for it. Therefore, the main objective of the project was to investigate the impact of gamification within linguistic and emotional competences, motivation, and attentional focusing with a 2-week gamified intervention. During these 2 weeks, students had to complete different tasks and they would obtain different points set in class dojo and different badges related to their own interests, like, for example, super things, dinosaurs, origami. So in that way, their motivation would be enhanced. In this way, the design of the didactic intervention took place in a second grade of a state school in Ciudad Real. These participants were 24 students who were divided into 2 groups. The control group, who followed a traditional type of methodology, and the experimental group, who followed a gamification. In this way, an experimental research with a mixed design is carried out, in which the independent variable refers to gamification, while the dependent variables are the ones considered in the objective, which are linguistic competence, motivation, attentional focusing, and emotions. In this way, a pre-test and post-test design is applied. The pre-test before the didactic intervention application, while the post-test refers to the afterwards, after the didactic intervention application. The pre-test and post-test design was elaborated according to the adaptation of different tests to evaluate the dependent variables, as it's going to be explained in the following slide. As it can be seen, the pre-test took 5 days in March in the year 2021, while the post-test took only 1 day in April after the didactic intervention application. The instruments used are the ones considered to evaluate the dependent variables. So first of all, motivational assessment test refer to the adaptation of MAPE 1, 2, and 3, EMAPI, and self-regulation questionnaires, as it can be seen. The adaptation took place so that students would understand the questions correctly, as they were second graders. Then, attentional focusing test referred to an adaptation of ADHD rating scale 4. And the emotion experienced interview referred to an adaptation in order to create the blocks for the interview related to achievement emotions questionnaire. Finally, the linguistic competence test referred to oral and written comprehension and production, and 4 ad hoc tests were elaborated according to the contents and objectives from Decree 54/2014, as this project took place in the year 2021. As it can be seen, the subject within the contents to be explored was related to farm animals, according to the syllabus of the subject. Thus, after the didactic intervention application, the post-test took place, and therefore the data analysis was considered in order to create or elaborate the discussion and to obtain the results from a pre-test to post-test design. As it can be seen within the first dependent variable attentional focusing test, it can be seen how both the experimental group and the control group had a low inattention, and this inattention was even lower in the post-test. However, no significant changes were obtained from the experimental group to the control group. Regarding motivational assessment test, it can be seen how in the pre-test the experimental group obtained a lower motivation than the control group. However, after the didactic intervention application, that is after gamification, the experimental group significantly changed, improved its motivation, having almost similar results than the control group, having significant changes. Thus, gamification actually helped these students to feel more motivated in class. The same can be said for the linguistic competence regarding reading test, as students in the experimental group commenced with a lower level of the reading comprehension. However, after the didactic intervention application, that is after gamification was employed, the experimental group obtained a higher level more than the control group, therefore obtaining significant differences between the control group, between the experimental group and the control group. Finally, the emotions experienced interview, which referred to a qualitative collection of data. Most students from the pre-test and from both the control and the experimental group had similar comments related to English, saying that they liked the English classes, but they felt a little bit nervous when speaking, and sometimes the book was a little bit boring, the same as some of the activities. These results changed from the control group to the experimental group, as in the control group most students had the same kind of responses, while in the experimental group students started saying that they loved English classes, what they loved the most were games, badges, points. They didn't get bored, and they felt that the activities were very enjoyable. So that it can be seen how students in the experimental group had a positive attitude towards the learning of a language, towards the subject, because their opinions changed. Thus, this didactic intervention program had improvements in emotional and linguistic competences, specifically reading. However, there exist some limitations that need to be considered for future studies. First of all, the sample was considered within 24 participants, which were not enough to generalize maybe about the benefits of gamification. However, despite its brevity, it had significant effects which could be consolidated if the sessions and the temporalization, the intervention, was to be extended temporarily. However, there exist some effects that gamification had on students. Specifically, most participants wanted to get more badges, and therefore they had to get better in order to obtain those badges that were related to completing the tasks, speak English in class, participate, help others. What is more, there was a great frustration management, specifically when competing against each other, and most students started to get better. So in that way, they would get more badges too. However, it would be relevant to consider a long-term two methodology combination, combining two active methodologies like gamification and a more traditional one, so different skills and competence levels are acquired. Finally, it is relevant to consider how students were asked if they attended an academy, and after observing and analyzing those answers, most students who did not attend an academy obtained worse results in the pretest. However, they were balanced in terms of they were almost the same levels as the ones who did attend an academy. So gamification could actually balance these inequalities between students who can afford attending an academy and those ones who cannot. All in all, there exist some contributions to the educative context with the use of this project, as students feel more excited and motivated to learn English, to go to English classes, and to participate and cooperate among students, as an instant feedback and individualized treatment is considered. In this way, a cross-discipline focus is achieved, since an effective, essential, and reinforced learning is acquired thanks to gamification. Here you can see the bibliography used in the presentation. And thank you very much for your attention. I really hope you enjoyed, and I will be pleased to answer your questions in the comments. Thank you.